major experts are saying about Elon Musk and Tesla. First, we'll watch a video of Jensen Huang, CEO of NVIDIA, sharing how only Elon Musk is capable of building a massive data center factory in 19 days, where others would have taken years. Second, we have Dan Ives of Wedbush Securities, who's one of the only analysts who saw the We Robot event being a game changer that has transformed Tesla into leading the fourth industrial revolution. So we've got Jeff Lutz with us. Jeff is a multi-decade supply chain executive and chief quality officer. He's now CEO of his own supply chain consulting firm. Thank you, Jeff.
Hey, Herbert. Great to be with you.
So we wanted to hear all these different analysts, what they're thinking, where they're coming from. But most important, of course, is Jensen Huang. Honestly, NVIDIA, that's the one that matters more. The rest are just kind of institutional analysts. So let's, when you listen closely to Jensen Huang, what he's predicting, it all ties back to Tesla. And you had a tweet, you're kind of explaining that that's the case. Let's start first with this. AI Investor posted a video of Jensen actually just being interviewed recently. And he said, what does it mean for NVIDIA's revenue when Jensen said inference will go up by 1 billion times? So in this interview, Jensen's saying that not only NVIDIA's revenue, but again, you'll explain what does it mean for Tesla if this goes up. So let's watch this.
Over 40% of your revenue today is inference. But inference is about ready because of chain of reasoning.
Yeah.
Right?
It's about to go up by 1 billion times.
Right, by a million X, by a billion X.
That's right. That's the part that most people haven't completely internalized. This is that industry we were talking about, but right. This is the industrial revolution.
Right. That's the production of intelligence.
That's right.
Right, and
it's going to go up 1 billion times.
Right, and so everybody's so hyper focused on NVIDIA as kind of like doing training on bigger models.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't it the case that your revenue, if it's 50-50 today, you're going to do way more inference in the future?
Yeah.
Right? Training will always be important, but just the growth of inference is going to be way larger than growth in training.
We hope.
It's almost impossible to conceive otherwise.
Yeah, we hope. That's right. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's good to go to school.
Yes.
But the goal is so that you can be productive in society later. And so it's good that we train these models, but the goal is to inference them. Yeah.
And then you had this post that said that Tesla designs their own AI inference chips, all of the hardware and software for them. They're used in all Tesla cars and Optimus.
Yeah, Tesla equals NVIDIA when it comes to inference. So let me explain that. I'm not saying in terms of AI footprint that they're equivalent, because NVIDIA is obviously serving the world on this. What I mean is six or more years ago, Elon and the Tesla team, they made a bet. And you have work that's done on the training side, you have work that's done on the inference side, and you have requirements and capabilities, in this case for a self-driving vehicle, eventually a humanoid robot. And Tesla, even today on the record, says that they can't. So let me be very clear what they do. NVIDIA designs inference hardware, silicon, and the surrounding computer around it if a customer needs it. And they design the software as well to interoperate with that. And they sell that to people. They don't. NVIDIA does not have their own fab, so they design this and they send it out to TSMC. TSMC does their production, and then customers buy that production from them, through TSMC. But NVIDIA does the hardware and software for inference. But in the case of Tesla used to buy their inference from NVIDIA, but they branched off and did their own. This is the Pete Bannon team and the team that they ramped up several years ago. And this is where, you have AI 3 and the AI 4 chip in vehicles today and the coming AI 5 chip. What is that? Tesla designs that chip. Okay. They design the software and the computer around that chip and all the interoperability. That is all Tesla designed. They do the same thing. They send it out to NVIDIA or Samsung, who's also a fab, and they get their parts fabricated and they're sent back. They're put on the computer printed circuit board assembly, and they're sent back as a computer, as a full computer, and put into Tesla vehicles, this board. So I want to be very clear there that literally Tesla does not buy inference from NVIDIA. Tesla does this themselves, and we'll be now in the 7 millionth Tesla by the time they complete production this quarter, and it's going to be in every Optimus, and then any other, call it edge device. These are the things that actually interact in the world with real people and do real work, and so these devices see things and they do localized processing. That's what that inference is. And Tesla does this themselves. I think it's really important because even most analysts and on-air personalities don't understand this simple fact that Tesla does this themselves. And so when you start talking about FSD and you start talking about FSD unsupervised, supervised, unsupervised, the robotaxi and so forth, as that scale, that is all local inferencing from Tesla. And Tesla's even talked about the AI4 computer and the AI5 computer making its way over to the training side to do some of the training tasks as well. So Tesla is a partner with NVIDIA today. They are buying compute from NVIDIA. They've made the largest clusters in the world, this 100,000 unit GPU cluster we're going to talk about in a minute. So they're definitely partners. They definitely like working with each other, and they definitely both need each other. But when it comes to the inference side, and this is where the big debate now is in the industry, is where is the AI workload going to go and where is it going to transition to? And I think what you heard Jensen say is that there's going to be massive growth on the inference side. Tesla does their own inference.
Appreciate it, Jeff. That's so big deal. And again, I'm completely underestimating this because here you've got NVIDIA, Jensen Huang saying inference compute is going to go up 1 billion times. And what you've just said is Tesla also creates inference compute. And so, yes, NVIDIA is going to benefit from it, but so is Tesla. And then even Jensen says what matters more is not the training. Eventually, it's the students who actually do something with it, which is what Tesla does. They actually do something with this in the inference side. So
let me give one more piece of the puzzle, quick piece of the puzzle too, Herbert. Why is this important? Look at NVIDIA's gross margins today. They're at roughly 75%. If you wanted to do inference on your vehicle, you're going to buy software from them and you're going to buy the hardware, the chip from them. And together, you're going to pay out 75 points of gross margin to get it. Guess what Tesla's paying out? Tesla does not pay that. They make their own software. And in terms of the hardware itself, of course, they have to pay TSMC or Samsung from a fab perspective, but it's not the 75% gross margin. So when you start talking, we had the conversation about the cybercab and how do you minimize the cost structure on that? Others are never going to be able to get over that fact of buying their inference from someone else. That is going to be a line in their unit economics, and they're going to pay out that gross margin. They're going to be paying a license for the software. They're going to be paying out for that hardware margin as well. Tesla's not going to have those lines in their unit economics. So when you start talking about the time to economic scale, when you start putting out millions of humanoids and you start to put out millions of these vehicles, you take this massive line out of the unit economics. Tesla's going to get the economic scale faster just by definition of this alone.
Yeah. So not only is vertical integration one of Tesla's superpowers, the other really big one is just time to market, how fast they can get there. And here's Jensen Huang. If you don't believe Elon or Tesla, listen to what Jensen Huang tells you of his experience working with Elon and the team. You made sure that people saw this, and he said, Jensen Huang talks about that typically most companies will take 1 year, but it only took 19 days, 2.5 weeks. And you're saying that time to value is a cheat code, not understood by most. Clearly the priority at Musk companies from the leader. Here's straight from Jensen. So, man.
And the first of all, acknowledgement of achievement where it's deserved. From the moment of concept to a data center that's ready for NVIDIA to have our gear there, to the moment that we powered it on, had it all hooked up, and it did its first training.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
So that first part, just building a massive factory, liquid cooled, energized, permitted, in the short time that was done, I mean, that is like superhuman.
Right.
Yeah. There's and as far as I know, there's only one person in the world who could do that.
Right.
You know, I mean, Elon is singular in this understanding of engineering and construction and large systems and marshaling resources.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And of course, then his engineering team is extraordinary. I mean, the software team's great, the networking team's great, the infrastructure team is great. You know, Elon understands this deeply. And from the moment that we decided to go, the planning with our engineering team, our networking team, our infrastructure computing team, the software team, all of the preparation in advance, then all of the infrastructure, all of the logistics and the amount of technology and equipment that came in on that day, NVIDIA's infrastructure and computing infrastructure and all that technology, to training, 19 days. You don't want.
Did anybody sleep? 24/7.
No question that nobody slept. But first of all, 19 days is incredible. But it's also kind of nice to just take a step back and just, do you know how many days 19 days is? It's just a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Right.
And the mountain of technology, if you were to see it, is unbelievable. All of the wiring and the networking and, you know, networking NVIDIA gear is very different than networking hyperscale data centers. Right. Okay. The number of wires that goes in one node, the back of a computer is all wires. Right. And just getting this mountain of technology integrated and all the software, incredible. Right. Yeah. So I think what Elon and the X team did, and I'm really appreciative that he acknowledges the engineering work that we did with him and the planning work and all that stuff. But what they achieved is singular, never been done before. Just to put in perspective, 100,000 GPUs. That's, you know, easily the fastest supercomputer on the planet. That's one cluster. A supercomputer that you would build would take normally 3 years to plan.
Right.
And then they deliver the equipment, and it takes 1 year to get it all working.
Yes.
We're talking about 19 days.
Wow.
What's the credit of the NVIDIA platform, right? That the whole processes are hardened.
That's right.
Yeah.
Everything's already working. And of course, there's a whole bunch of, you know, X algorithms and X framework and X stack and things like that. And we got a ton of integration we have to do. But the planning of it was extraordinary. Just pre-planning of it to, you know.
N of one.
Jeff?
This is something that a lot of companies don't spend time on, and they don't focus on it. A lot of companies traditionally focus on how much am I paying for a part and how much can I get that cost lower. And you should be focused on that. You should be focused on eliminating the part if you can. But this whole concept of I've acquired capital, in this case, 100,000 GPUs, $4 billion, I guess. And how long does it take me to get to from the money that left our bank account to go buy those GPUs? How long does it take before they're actually installed and processing meaningful output that's actually going to start generating revenue for my company? And that is the mental model, and probably the physical model, I should say, that Elon has in his head. And what he does is he tries to figure out how to cut that time out. If you study Tesla's history and you study who they hire, they have hired, Tom Zhu, for example. His background wasn't in building cars. His background was in building factories, and how do you build them faster and faster in each iteration? That is his specialty. And now he's obviously developed the automotive specialty. The automation team that they acquired in Germany. Tesla is acquiring companies, not all the companies, but there are acquisitions that they have made, there are hires that they have made that focused on the total process time, in terms of getting a return on your capital, whether it's building factories or what have you, or the automation piece of it, which is obviously also trying to accelerate and minimize cost structure and accelerate return on invested capital, ROIC. So what Jensen is explaining here is that there is no single person. When you think about, he talked about 3 years of planning for a data center, another year for construction and bring up. and to have, you know, at least the 1 year portion of it that, you know, done in 19 days in the case of X, and you know what Tesla is doing as well on the Colossus supercluster. I mean, this is extraordinary. No one's even close. So other companies are going to look at this and say, all right, we've got to really start spending mental capacity on this and figuring out how can we do better here as well. But this, you know, this is just another example of showing how Tesla's and Elon is a great steward of capital. And the thing is how much is minimizing that network time from the capital going out to it coming back and actually producing useful output for your company. So I can't overemphasize the importance of this. It's not just how much you pay for stuff and how much margin and so forth. It's also, this is the cash piece. This is the cost of capital piece. And this transcends everywhere in the company, whether they're buying CapEx for production lines. This is why they're extending the 3 and Y CapEx out and producing the new interim lower cost vehicles. That was a play on reducing both unit economics and reducing the cost of capital and getting greater return on capital. And you know, all these decisions are connected together, but this is a competitive advantage. And now these are AI factories. Okay, those data centers are a factory. Okay, where information or video, whatever comes in as an input, and the output are these training models. And Elon viewed it just like there's a car factory or there's you name a Starlink. He viewed this as another factory, and if I can bring the factory up faster, and I can get it producing meaningful output faster, it's going to be better for my cash. It's going to be better for my cost structure, and it's going to give me a competitive advantage over everyone else. And that's what Jensen, who sees all of his customers, he sees Amazon, he sees Meta, he sees all these other customers, he sees what they're doing with his GPUs, and then he sees what Elon is doing with his companies, and he's specifically calling that out here.
It's not just 100,000. Elon tweeted this out, says, if they don't believe the 100,000, they definitely won't believe the 200,000. He's part of it is just not only, you know, he's already done this in 19 days. Everybody is much slower, but he's gonna keep doing it, and he's gonna just separate the spread of how much faster they are. Elon said this, which was kind of interesting. He goes, for my time-based predictions, I generally aim for the 50 percentile date, which means that half my predictions will be late and half will be early. The press never mentions the predictions that were early, so it seems like I'm always late. However, it's very rare that a prediction I make does not come true over time. So
yeah,
that's how
I commented on this too. I commented on this too because this is something I've in my career I've always been asked to not only weigh in on but create. I was asked of, like, you know, when are we going to have 2 million of this smartphone available on the shelf? And I have to give a date. And the reason I have to give a date is because there's marketing plans that are around it. There's hundreds of millions of dollars that are being spent. And of course, there's purchasing decisions that are being made. And how much cash can the company have outlaid without actually producing sales? And so I would be in this position 12 months out that I'd have to give a date, or at least a week, when I believe that we're going to achieve it. And I will tell you that when you have a schedule, when you're building a product that has many things in it that have never been done before in the industry, it increases the variation on that schedule dramatically. But if you're producing an iterative product, let's say you're adding a camera button or you're doing something iterative to a product, those schedules are much more predictable, and they can even get them down to the day, certainly the week, but certainly and down to the day. And you're not just predicting the day when the first unit ships. You have to predict the velocity of the factory and the supply chain. It's very important. Shipping, nobody cares if you shipped one unit. They want to know when you're getting to your peak run rate, and that's what the whole economics of the everything is weighed upon. So, what the products that he is building, and he's asked to give a date. Here's what he's doing. He is providing a date that he knows he's picking the 50 percentile. He's trying to be aggressive, and he's trying to motivate his teams to think differently, to do things differently, to work closer together. If you've studied or if you've looked at how Tesla works, They have conventional departments. They have, supplier, realization department, but they don't just sit like in that whole group is not just sitting in one room and waiting for inputs from engineering and outputs from here. They go work together as one team. So that supplier realization engineer that's supposed to figure out how to get that part made at a supplier is not just sitting with all of his supplier or her supplier realization buddies in that room. They're like, what part am I working on? If I'm working on the electric motor, they sit with the electric motor team, the design engineers, the software people, they all sit together, and that accelerates the schedule in a way. Putting these aggressive schedules out forces these groups to work together organically. And I think we talked about this in a prior episode a bit, but they're organized differently. They work differently. So Elon's got to give schedules that motivate and drive his teams, to do things differently in each iterative product, so they can get faster and faster. And at the same time, the other competing force in his schedule proclamations are how many new things are they doing that have never been done before in the industry before. And when you're trying to give a schedule for that, this is like documented facts, and I've had this documented from my own, experience as well. The schedule variation on landing those components or landing those systems or the whole product, there's a direct correlation to how many new and unique or different things you're doing in the product versus how many things have been done before. And the things that have been done before, you can nail it. You can nail it within a couple of days. In fact, you should be figuring out how to do those things faster. The stuff that has never been done before has the higher variation in it. And that's sometimes where they get caught up. But that's what's happening. Tesla does products that have a lot more variation because they're going after things they've never done before. And then when they did the first casting, when they did the first integrated, seats or the one-piece version, they're doing things that haven't been done before in the industry that they're in, or they haven't been done at scale before. In the industry, there's been castings that have been done before. They've never been done at the scale or the size of what they're doing. So that's what's happening when I saw that post. I'm like, to me, it's like, it's okay because you're going after things that have never been done before. So that variation is going to be naturally higher. And that's when I hear a date from Tesla, it's immediately like, okay, how much newness is in this product? Look at the Cybertruck. That was on the other scale of almost everything being new. And that's why you saw the high variation in the production date.
Nice. Okay, good nuance there. Appreciate that comment. So let's go through Dan Ives. What did he think of the actual event? Watch him.
Covered tech almost 25 years. What I saw yesterday in LA, I think was a game changer. And look, short on details, I get it, but this is the new chapter, the new book for Tesla.
What did you actually see, Dan, that got you so excited? Because for the majority of us, we're sort of trying to guess what we're looking at. We weren't at the event. We don't know how good the sort of autonomous cyber cab looks like. We saw Optimus, which is those robots, and the sort of suggestion that this could cost the same as a car and be like a personal robot in your house. I mean, it is a vision of the future that most of us, quite frankly, can't grasp. Can you see, because you were there in person, real potential versus, as Claire was saying, sort of sci-fi optimism?
Well, yeah, look, what Claire's talking about, I mean, the sci-fi optimism, maybe that was 3-4 years ago. Here, you look at Cybercab, I mean, I think there could be 70, 80,000 of these on the road as we go into 2026, 2027. In terms of test driving it, smooth ride, no issues in terms of what I see with the interventions. In other words, like, I feel like they are getting closer and closer to what's essentially full autonomous, and those cars, no steering wheel, no pedal. When you look at Optimus, I mean, you're talking about a robot that you're interacting with that's literally making margaritas for guests while taking selfies. The point is, like, this now goes into a new age. You talk about AI. This is going to be one of the biggest use cases when it comes to robotics as well as autonomous.
You know, I read one article today, Dan, that was saying that actually this highlights how much potential actually NVIDIA has and how advanced they are, but also for other players, be it Uber, that are in this autonomous vehicle space, actually how advanced they are relative to Tesla. Do you buy any of that?
Look, it's not a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
I mean, as me and you have talked about many times, fourth industrial revolution, the AI revolution led by godfather of AI, Jensen, NVIDIA, but many others across tech are going to be huge winners, from Apple to Amazon to Uber. And I continue to think Tesla is front and center. Now, it looks scarce on details. We all know Musk is not going to, really go up there and give so many details. This lays the groundwork for what I kind of view as this AI chapter, this really AI future at Tesla.
Very quickly, Dan, do you think they could give us more detail if they wanted to?
I think they also have to be careful. Can't give away the playbook, right? So last thing they want to do, give details that maybe have to get pushed back. You don't want to,
Right.
You want to take genie out of the bottle, can't put it back in. These were products you saw front and center. Anyone that was at the event, and if you came away more negative, I don't really understand it, just given what I saw from a pure technology perspective.
Yeah, you and I were at that event, and this wasn't just a product unveiled. This was a real deal, and so they had a purpose of not revealing things. Then they may do that on the earnings call that's coming up, or like he's saying, maybe later. Pierre Ferragu, I was with him. We both almost got into the same cybercab. He said last night wasn't We Robot, it was a We Reboot. $750 billion market cap, which is what Tesla's valued right now, bets the farm on the next frontier, droids and robotaxis, unheard of. Be skeptical, you'd be a fool not to be, but this is the Musk way. Set the bar high, go for it, and achieve amazing things on the way. What do you think about what Dan said?
Well, I don't agree with the comment there from Pierre. Let's start there. They're not betting the farm. They have $100 billion business that's growing on the auto and energy side. Okay, that's throwing off cash. So they're, of course, this is going to be a big inflection. Of course, Elon has said, don't invest in this if you don't believe in autonomy. That's all. Got it. I mean, these are just hyperbolic terms and words, but they clearly have a strong underlying business. Let me give you, and Dan hit on a couple of key things. If you study the sentiment, if you just even do look at 10 people on X that were at the event or were not at the event, and you study the sentiment of their commentary, you'll see more negative, I believe, for the people that weren't at the event versus the people that were at the event. And let's study that a little bit. When you see things in like two dimensions, on a screen, I mean, you can see a lot. They were showing a lot of stuff, certainly on the when I watched the replay of the event. It was great. It's stunning. But when you see it in person, it's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable that these humanoids they were literally walking around me. And of course, I didn't the natural language piece. Of course, I understood what was actually happening there, but the ability of that movement and to see it in that volume, and to see them doing actions that I haven't seen them do before, and not being worried about the tethers and not being worried about is it going to fall over this or that. There's a level of maturity there that you see in person that you wouldn't see online. But let me hit, I think, on what are the critical points. Dan's talked about 70 or 80,000, robo-taxis built even, by the end of next year. And let's say that number is real. That's many times the fleet of what these companies that have had them out there for a couple of years have today. Many, many times. And I believe this is a simple thing. And if you just, my crudeness, sorry for the crudeness here of my arm, but if my arm is the line, or my hand here, I guess it's not big enough. This is how robo-taxis are kind of ramping today. It's almost kind of like a flat line, hundreds of vehicles, maybe a few thousand here or there. This is how it's ramping right now. When Tesla decides to go, we don't know the exact start point within 5 or 6 months or whatever. We don't know when that starts. But when that point of the line starts, it's not going to look like this. It's going to look like this.
Yeah.
And That is the big takeaway. They are building a product, a platform, an offering for scale, starting at the core unit economics, which we talked about prior, to autonomy anywhere, not autonomy on train streets, on certain streets that have to be, HD mapped and so forth. They're building something for scale. So if you're an analyst and you start thinking about this, like the speed or the velocity of money, and you see this, which right now is the current robo-taxi, this is what they are today. And they're not making money. Nobody's breaking out their economics and saying, this is where I'm at. Okay. And if they are, it's a pretty bad story. And what Tesla told you is it's going to go something like this. It's just not today. And the other thing, and we talked about this before, is the expectations for Tesla to have unveiled some near-term vehicle that's going to go into production right away. That wasn't that. There must have been some disconnect between either Tesla or the analysts or something that was just not going to be the case. That vehicle, that interim vehicle, that lower cost than the 3-in-Y vehicle, that will be unveiled. It could be unveiled on the web, by the way. It could be unveiled with a quick video, or they could have an event. We don't know. But that's going to be unveiled, and then they're going to say you can order it and you can buy it. Not only just order it, but you'll be able to actually, it'll be available for delivery near term. So I think there was just, when I hear the analysts, I just hear some interesting disconnects. But that nugget from Dan about, just how many of these are going to be able to get out that quickly, that doesn't sound like a big number, 70 or 80,000, and who knows what it's going to be. But if they get that, when they get that number out, it's going to be many times any one single robotaxi fleet that's out there today, or even all of them combined.
Can I press you on that though? Because you are, I know it's a guess. I know that for a fact, but if anybody in the Tesla retail community, you probably have your best guess better than everybody. So when the Cybertruck came out this year, they launched it. Probably we're expecting 50,000, 60,000 by the end of the year, but it was like a brand new vehicle, very difficult. They had issues at the beginning, but now they get to scale. But next year, maybe they'll hit the 250,000 vehicle or whatever, then it scales up. Now, this particular Cybercab was designed for mass scale. Yeah. So when people are saying, Waymo, watch it, they're way ahead, or Uber is going to catch up somehow, they've got a partnership with Hyundai or whoever it is. No. How many cars do they have to build? How fast can they build? So Cybercab, what are you thinking when it launches for the 2 states? And then, of course, we're going to also be able to add our own Model 3s, Model Ys that we have, any car we have that is able. But what do you think is the ramp up per year?
Well, the 2 states are for the existing Tesla vehicles that can be converted to be unsupervised. So that, I don't think that's tied to the Cybercab schedule at all.
Right. Agreed. So
the way to think about these things is to think about what is their peak volume. So, and Tesla hasn't come out and been explicit on this, but let's say it is 1.5 million or 2 million vehicles per year. What you want to hear from Tesla is, when are you going to be at the run rate that can produce 2 million vehicles a year? When are you going to be at that run rate, which I guess would be 40,000 vehicles a week or so? When are you going to be at the 40,000 a week run rate? That is the race. That is, you start from zero, and that's what everybody inside of Tesla, whether you're in engineering, whether you're in operations, whether you're in supply chain, is, how do I get my run rate from 0 to 40K? And how many weeks or how many months, sorry, I should say weeks, in this case, it'd be months. How many months is it to be till I get to the 40K run rate per week? And so it's going to be faster, I believe, than Cybertruck. It's going to be faster than that, because Tesla used Cybertruck, which is going to naturally be a high average selling price vehicle. They used that as no pun intended, the test vehicle for the 48 volt architecture, for steer by wire, for all these different things that they had to get right to put in these lower cost platforms. So I believe it's going to ramp faster. Is it, if you say Cybertruck is 18 months to maybe 20 months to get to its peak run rate, hopefully they'll be able to do this in half or less.
Perfect. Okay. I just looked it up. How many Waymo cars are there? 700. How many Baidu cars are out there? 2,000 or they're 1,000. They're trying to get to 2,000.
This is the takeaway. This is what's important. Tesla's gonna. I mean, they'll just annihilate that very quickly. The question is, what is the start date?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jeff. That was fantastic. Appreciate your opinions here. Of course, NVIDIA, Jensen Huang is massively important, what he says. And then we got Dan Ives explaining some things as well. Appreciate you. Follow Jeff at the Jeff Lutz. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.